If you want to learn how to not fail and stay consistent, stay motivated, and stay on the track that you've always wanted to, this episode is perfect for you. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome all new listeners, and welcome back to those who have heard my content in the past. This is an exciting episode where PTs fail. If you want to learn how to not fail and stay consistent, stay motivated, and stay on the track that you've always wanted to, this episode is perfect for you. This episode, everyone asks, where do you get these ideas from? Where do you get these weird episode concepts from? Actually, it's from people who literally message me or email me and ask me questions. So this one today is from somebody who messaged me on Instagram saying that they're a student at a local university and they're having success up to now and they're losing motivation. And all they have is like 1 or 2 more years. And they asked, how did you make the change happen in your life to get to where you are now? And they feel very comfortable. And this has led them to doubt their future career as a physical therapist. So obviously, as a student. But I think a lot of us can resonate with this, both clinicians and students. And the concept of this episode is where PTs fail. Now, I'm getting this from a student, but I think the answers lie in the foundation of who we are as a person and going into our profession. So let me explain. Before I do that, let me tell you a little bit more about life. I am coming off a week-long vacation with my family, and I am restored. Every time I come back from these events, from these vacations and events, I come with fire to my company, Sports Performance, and I come with ideas. I want to change the world just because I have downtime, and that gives me clarity. And I've learned to just, like nice and easy. I'll just kind of get back in the rhythm. So today was my first day back in the office, and it's been great. Whenever I take time off, and I encourage you all to do this, and I tell my team this the same thing, take time away and just literally get clarity and make sure that like life is good and you're fully focused on everything that you love, whether that's your professional career, your kids, your family, whatever it is. I think you need that time away because I think a lot of us are focused on our career, and it just makes sure that we're on that right track with all domains in our life. So taking that time away with the family was perfect. I'm fully ready to rock and roll and crush this world. So I'm coming off of this, and I had a great meeting with my team this morning on similar concepts. So I wanted to share this. And this is near and dear to my heart for many reasons, and I'll explain more. But I think that the question was posed from a student, but I think that this applies to somebody who's been practicing 20 years, 30 years, 10 years, 5 years, it doesn't matter. So if you're a new grad or experienced, this is for you, because I truly believe this is where most PTs fail. The lessons that we're going to learn and review today are from a student, but it applies to you tremendously as a clinician. So let me explain. First, let me explain just generally my story. I know a lot of you have heard it, but I wanted to give a glimpse into a backside that not a lot of people know about. And I feel more comfortable sharing along this journey. And I'm glad that you guys are along for the ride. It's just exploration of like who I am and where I'm going as a professional. And I want to be able to help others. And so I think if you understand a little bit more, you understand what my mission and vision is. So my grandmother raised me as a kid, and we grew up very different socioeconomic status, very underprivileged, and we didn't have a lot of money. And my grandma used to work 2 jobs, and she used to work in an illegal factory, meaning she used to sew for a living, but it was an illegal factory, meaning they would have a lot of immigrants in there also working at like below standard like wages. And she used to work like double overtime. And I remember that. And I remember the paychecks she used to bring in every single week. And she, in addition to that, on the weekends, she would also pick strawberries at a local field, a strawberry field. So she worked doubles Monday through Friday, and then she would work at a strawberry field picking strawberries on the weekend. So she worked 7 days a week. I remember seeing that, and I thought that was very admirable. I thought that was normal, and I saw how hard she worked. And for me, as a kid, that meant a lot to me. I seen you learn a lot from the people you observe, and I just grew up thinking like, well, I thought everybody works this hard. I thought everybody just does this. And the more and more I realized that she was just doing this to survive, I had a greater appreciation as I got older. So how does this relate to why PTs, where do PTs fail? Let me tell you, uh, as I mentor more and more PTs at different stages of their career, I learned more and more that we're all very similar in the sense that our professional career, like what we want out of that, and sometimes that fuel, like to fire, like to get us fired up, it just kind of dwindles. And there's two things off of this podcast that I want to share with you. I think that PTs fail for two reasons. Where they fail is different in their career. But number one, they get comfortable. They absolutely get comfortable. And for many of you, and just like me, I'm guilty of this myself. Uh, you know that I was illiterate until high school, went to college, got a degree. I was like, man, I am conquering the world. This is it. I'm like, I did it. And then I get into PT school. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna crush this. I am, I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing this for my grandma. I'm doing this for me, and I crush it. And I go to residency. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so great. I'm changing the world. Like I'm doing something different. I'm doing it for my grandma. I'm doing it for me. And then at some point, you hit a wall where you like work so hard, and you're like, why am I doing? You ask yourself, like, why am I doing this? And the reality is that you kind of have to have a, if you listen to my last podcast, is very similar, but you kind of have to have a purpose to like do what you're doing, right? And for me, it was my grandma. Like I knew that I didn't want to do that anymore. Like I didn't want her to live like that. I didn't want to have her working two jobs. And I knew that I didn't want that lifestyle. I didn't want my family having that lifestyle. And I greatly appreciated it, but I just knew that there's got to be something different. So for me, my vision was always like at the top root, like my grandma, like think about that lifestyle, not happening in my life, not doing it. Here we go. What do I need to do to solve this? So for me, my purpose always stayed at the top of my head. Like that always stay focused on what that was. And so as I went through PT school, I was like, gotta do this. It's for my grandma. I have to do it. I went through PT school and got into residency, completed residency. I'm like, my grandma, gotta do this. And then at some point I was like, wait a minute, but like I'm past that point now. I've accomplished this. So now what? At the deep root, I had to understand like, well, it wasn't just for my grandma, it was like to impact people. I knew that I was trying to like improve my quality of life and change my grandma's world, but also what I did for my grandma and helping her manage her hip pain, it also helped me understand that it wasn't just my grandma, it was like the feeling that I got when I helped people. Like it was so rewarding. I loved it. And that to me was like the deepest root. Like I loved that feeling, and that's what I wanted to do. And I think that people get comfortable wherever you are in your career, whether you're a new grad or established, you get comfortable in your career. It's a real deal. And I think at some point, it's because you feel like you've made it, you've achieved it, when in reality, it doesn't really stop. I was talking to my team today about, the patients and athletes that we see. The reality is that if they're a high performing, high elite athlete, they're never really going to get out of pain. They're just going to go mess up everything that you just did and then need some like recovery services or injury prevention services or wellness services or whatever it is, because they're going to get banged up again. That's just the nature of the job, the nature of the stimulus. If you go high intensity, long duration, or high load, long duration, you're bound to have aches and pains. So you're just going to support them as an athlete. Working in the pro world, that's what I learned. that athletes don't really ever live pain-free. It doesn't exist. It's like this mythical creature. They don't ever live pain-free. What they do live is a pain decreased life in off season, and going into the preseason things start to pop up, and then in season they're always in pain. Something always comes up, whether that's nervous system related or nerves or whatever it is. There's always something going on. So I realized people aren't going to be pain free, and for me, I had to realize that. And I think that once you do, you realize that your job is to service people throughout their life, their career, whatever it is. And I think when you get comfortable, it's because you hit milestones or achievements. When I finished my residency, I was so proud of myself. I was like, I had to look back and reflect, right? I think that's what we all do when you accomplish something. And then I thought, man, I can't go any further from here. And then I got a job in the pro sports. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I can't get any higher than this. And opportunities just like they just kept taking me there. And for me, I had to figure out that there's always a ladder. There's always something to move forward towards. And when you achieve something, so when I finished residency and I got my SCS, that exam was tough. And I remember taking it. I was like, wow, I just ate some humble pie. That was not easy at all. And I had to remember that I had to like reflect and that I'm nobody in this world. Like I am literally trying to achieve something and I'm nowhere near what I need to be at. But at certain points, you get comfortable and you realize like, oh my goodness, like I've done it and I'm good. I'm just gonna coast. I'm done. I've done it all, which is false. I think there's so many levels that you can as a clinician. Early on in my career, when I moved back to San Diego and I got a position at the Olympic Training Center, I got heavily involved in the local physical therapy chapter, the California Physical Therapy Association, and San Diego. So I did the local one and the state. And I got really involved because I wanted to impact the community. So when I finally discovered that I wanted to impact my grandma, I was like, okay, no, it's deeper than that. I want to impact people. I want to impact the quality of life. I want to give them quality of life back. And then when I worked in pro sports, I was like, oh, I don't want to give it back. I want to prevent it. I want injury prevention. I don't want them hurt. I want to keep them healthy. There's a different perspective to that. And then when I got involved at the local and state level with the Physical Therapy Association, I was like, oh, I can have impact. I can impact the profession. I can impact our state legislature. After that, I got involved with the with the San Diego State Doctor of Physical Therapy program, where we were just starting this from the ground up for I think 2014, 2015. The then head of the director of the program, Mitch Rao, asked me to be interested in to help with this, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. My grandma was the focus point, but I understand people then were really at the root of it. And my community was important and the patients and athletes that I was serving were important. But then I had to figure out like, well, there's a bigger umbrella to this. And for me, the California Physical Therapy Association opened my eyes. Now I can impact the profession. And then I had an opportunity to help with starting up the physical therapy practice or physical therapy program at San Diego State. And I was like, oh, this is it. Like I can have an impact on a greater level than just my local community. And that to me was powerful because I wanted to make an impact at a greater level than just my grandma. And that was my purpose. That's always been my purpose. And if you've been a student of mine, you're hearing this, you know, like I get fired up in lectures. I love this profession. I think we can change the world. But at different time points, you achieve certain milestones and you think you're done. And I think you get comfortable wherever you are in this world. You just got your SCS, you just got your CSCS, you got your CSCS and OCS. You got your OCS, SCS, and CSCS. And you're now going for your PhD. I don't care what initials you're going after, but I think you have to figure out at some point you're gonna hit a wall and you're gonna get comfortable. And at that point, you kind of have to ask yourself, is this momentary or am I done? And I think most people finish like they're like, I'm done, I'm out. I think they burn out too fast and they lose sight. of really what this profession is and what we do for people and what you're wanting to do. Uh, so number one, you get comfortable, hands down. I see this with professionals all the time. So to answer the first person's question who asked me, they said, I wanted to know how you made change happen in your life to get where you are now. The answer to that is that I had to stay focused on what it is that's driving me to go there. And for me, that was my grandma picking strawberries and working double overtime in a sweat factory, like a sewing sweat factory. And I remember seeing her do that, and I was like, that's exhausting. And I was like 9, 10, 11 years old watching her. And that as a kid, you realize that thing. And I knew for me, what was necessary to make that change happen was I didn't want to do that. I did not want to live that lifestyle, and I don't want my grandma ever to live that. My grandma's no longer with us. Interesting story. I say this with the utmost respect to my grandma. She actually developed ovarian cancer my first year in a PT school. Everything she ever wanted was for me to go to PT school. And I got into PT school and I got the news that she had developed ovarian cancer. If you're aware of ovarian cancer, it's a very, very tough condition to conquer. And her mission in life was to see me graduate from PT school. So fun fact, first flight she ever took was to St. Louis, Missouri in her life. And she took a flight out to my graduation. And that day, I didn't realize what it was, but she had a TIA. She had like a little mini stroke for some reason, whether that was altitude or just coincidence. But in St. Louis, the night before my graduation, she had a TIA. And so we flew her back home the next day. So she actually, she stayed for my graduation. Oh, she stayed for my graduation, and she flew back, and I lost her that next week. And I always say that she had a vision to see me graduate. And so what made me make the change to happen in my life to get where I'm at right now is that I never got comfortable. I never saw that mission dwindling from my head. Like I always had to stay focused on what my purpose was. Like, why am I doing this? For me, it was my grandma. And then I had a deeper understanding, like, it's to conquer like the planet, like help people feel better. But then with the California Physical Therapy Association and San Diego State University, I realized that it's beyond that. It's to help our profession. And at a greater scale, I'm opening my company up so that way I can not only help the PT profession, but healthcare, and create a network of sports PTs all over the country for professionals who are looking for a specific type of clinician, somebody who understands athletes at all phases of their training cycle. And so how did I do that? Staying focused. Don't get comfortable. You have to, no matter how hard you work, everybody listening to this has hustled at some point. I don't care who you are. The reason why you're listening to this podcast is because you're hungry. And if you're listening to this podcast, it's because you want to stay hungry. But some of you are losing that. Some of you are truly losing that. And I've had conversations with you because you're fearful that the system isn't allowing you to grow. It limits what you can do. And so you're getting frustrated. So you get comfortable. Or for some of you, you graduated, you got your degree and you're like, I'm done. I'm finally done. Actually, you're just starting. You're a student again. You're a student of the game. You're a student of physical therapy. You are just starting your career. You know very little relative to where you're going to be in 5, 10 years. So the way you have to see it is you're not done, you're just starting. If you're an experienced clinician and you're getting comfortable, you need to go back to the student mode and stay focused. That's why I said, even though the student asked me a question, that's a very fair question that every single experienced clinician can answer. But do you feel it? Like, do you still live it? Do you love it? And you need students around you because they always like create a fire with you, right? Like they still remind you of what it felt like to want to have that passion. So what made that change? Staying focused on my vision, which was to help my grandma do more, to help me not be in that place where my grandma like set the foundation from. So for me, that was good. Number two, you can't get comfortable. Like that's literally it. If you're getting comfortable, it's because you're hanging around with the wrong people. You're listening to other stuff. You're getting clouded by. You're losing clarity on why you do this in the first place. Get rid of it. Get it out of your way. Stay focused, and don't get comfortable. That's number one. Number two, for me, once you get comfortable, you lose consistency. Like you stop putting in the effort. You stop working hard. You stop working on the weekends. You stop studying at night. You stop getting up early to read stuff. Why? Because you think you made it. You think you're done. So you got comfortable. And what happens? What's like the second order consequence of that? You lose the consistency. And once you lose consistency, it's over. That is why people fail. It's not because they had one bad game. Like I've worked with so many professional athletes to understand everybody has a bad day. Every single athlete has a bad day. I remember as a provider working in pro sports, I remember working like Wimbledon and the French Open and thinking, before we got into that match, is today a good one or a bad one? Why? Because I have to be ready on the back end as a healthcare provider because it's going to impact me and my job. My job was to get them there healthy and make sure that they were consistent and they felt good. I couldn't affect performance on the day of, right? I just had to bring up the energy, make sure everything, the environment was stable, and then put them in the ring, put them in the match. All right, work your magic. And then you root them on, you like help them conquer it because everybody has a bad day. And the ones who have way more bad days than good days, that's a rough season. And it does happen, but there's another season behind that. And as a PT, it's the same. You're gonna have some rough years, rough weeks, rough months. But you can't lose the consistency. The minute you do that, you're done. You're gonna quit. You're gonna just like commit to complacency. That's just the nature of the game. So number one, you gotta stay, you cannot get comfortable. And number two, you can't lose the consistency. And if you lose consistency, you know why? One of them is you have this shiny object syndrome, right? Like you get Instagram, YouTube, all these other things clouding like what it is that has kept you on that road and kept you consistent. And then you get the shiny object syndrome, right? This company's hiring over here. This company, this is the cool new exercise. Maybe you shouldn't do sports. Maybe you should do something else. Residency is here. Don't do this. Online residency is residency for you. Certified strength conditioning specialist. Maybe you should take the OCS. Maybe you should get into neuro. Like there's just so many ads. It just like, you're like, wait a minute, but like I was so focused on this, and you stop losing, you lose the consistency that you're delivering, the same level of care, the same level of passion. One, you got comfortable, and that allowed you to have a mindset that you just couldn't keep up. So you just lose consistency. It's nature game. I've been through this. I'm telling you from experience. Whatever you're like, the reason why people lose consistency, the number one reason why people lose consistency is their purpose is not big enough. I heard that today, and that makes so much sense to me. The reason why people lose consistency is because their purpose is not big enough anymore. And what I mean by that is your grandma still the reason? Is the ACL still your reason? Is the injured high school athlete still the reason? I challenge you to reconsider that. So when you're having these challenges throughout your career, I promise you're going to have, this is why PTs fail, because they have these two problems and they let it conquer them, right? They just let it conquer them. I'm telling you right now, if you're looking to stay consistent, you're looking to stay motivated in this profession, you got to find your North Star. You got to find the thing, the purpose, the thing that has kept you here. Just keep that at the top of your head. Figure that out. Keep it the focus. And don't lose sight of that. Once you have that, the name of the game is consistency. You're going to have tough weeks. You're going to have tough months. I've worked in pro sports, and I've learned that one season does not define you, one week doesn't define you. Like your legacy is built off of the longevity, the lifetime of your career. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, all these people, Tom Brady, they have rough games, they have rough seasons, but across the board, they're still the best. I'm not here to debate, who's the best in what. I'm just saying they're known as the best. So the best clinicians are the ones who showed up on the third quarter, fourth quarter, doesn't matter. They just were there, consistent, and they didn't lose sight of why they were doing it. So knowing that, those two factors are the reasons why PTs fail. Number one, they get comfortable. They begin thinking they made it. It's a pinnacle of their career when in fact it's really just the beginning of it. Number two, they lose consistency. Their purpose is really not big enough. They get the shiny object syndrome, and they let it just take over their vision and passion. And that's where you're going to fail. And if you have felt that way, literally, you have to keep these two things in mind. It's the simplest thing you can do. If you ask, where is it that they're going to fail? Usually, I start to see it in the first 2 to 3 years of clinical practice. This begins to happen. And you would think like, oh my gosh, I thought it was like 8 to 10 years, 5, maybe 8. No, I'm seeing this earlier and earlier. Why? I think there's so much more attention on social media. I think there's attention on so much more than just the clinical practice aspect of it. I think that people are being spoon-fed different things, and that changed our perspective, both positive, negative, and you take that for what it is. But I think that you have to remove all of that factors and have clarity in what it is that you're doing. And nowadays, it's very tough, just because there's so many challenges, so many things, so many obstacles. As somebody who's been through it, both psychologically and mentally, physically, in pro sports, out of pro sports, in private practice, coaches, other PTs, I'm listening to them, I'm literally hearing them, and I'm sharing what they're sharing with me. And around that 2 to 3 year mark, that's when they're getting burnt out. I did, my last podcast was on PT burnout. But then also, it's just not just burnout. This is where people fail. Like, this is where they will go a different route. And fail is a tough word. But I think this is where they will either give up. This is where they will be challenged the most, and they will make a decision to either go to some other route, go to the easier job, go to something that there's a path of least resistance. And I don't think that that's what you want. So my vision and mission is to keep you at the top of your game, keep you at a point where you don't fail, keep you at a point where there's no burnout, keep you at a point where you stay consistent and you just ride the wave, like just have good season after good season after good season. And you just got to show up. But the challenge is, are you there for the long game? That's the toughest part for most people. They don't know. And that's the challenge. And I can tell you right now that showing up every single day, being consistent, keeping good vision on what it is that you have. Don't get comfortable. You should never be comfortable. Stay humble. Stay humble and keep pushing. Be consistent. That will keep you driving in the right direction. I know it sounds very foundational, but now in this business for 14 years, mentoring hundreds of PTs, helping a team service a community. This is what I'm hearing, and this is what I'm learning, and I want to share with the rest of you is the truth. So I hope that helps you somewhere along your career path, whether you're listening this a year from now or 6 months from now, whatever it is. This is for you, and it's real, and it is something that you need to consider along your career path. And not a lot of people talk about this, but this is real, because it will save your just your passion for your profession. Just remember, you spend as much time at work, if not more, than with your partner. Like, that's crazy. So you got to love it. You really do. You got to love it. So I hope that helps wherever you are in your career. Just a little housekeeping. I guess I didn't even mention this earlier, but if those of you who are listening and you're like, that's me, or I don't want to be that, I love to chat more with you about it. I've got a couple seminars, and I want you guys to be open to coming to San Diego. There's hybrid models. There's I have virtual and in person. But if you've ever been to an in-person course, they're with me, they're very different. Just the energy, like the community of people who are in the same mindset. I'd love to see you there. My next upcoming one is April 23rd and 24th in San Diego, Management of the Barbell Athlete. And this is a great course for people who work with CrossFitters, weightlifters, and you want to learn how to keep them in the gym. Maybe you don't feel comfortable with the lingo. Maybe your peers are better than you. Maybe you're not very comfortable, but you want to be because they come in so often. This course is for you. Or maybe you're an expert and you're like, I just want to refine a little bit of things. I want to learn on some mechanics. I want to learn some progressions. This is perfect for you. So April 23rd, 24th of 2022, whenever you're listening to this. I'd love to see you in San Diego. There is a hybrid model. Go for it. We've got a couple people already registered. I have 6 seats available for in person because the other four have been taken. One of those is virtual, but I'm trying to keep it small. I want to make sure that we have great discussions both before and after the event. So if you're interested and this content resonates with you and like you're like that's me, and if you want to have those conversations, I'd love to. April 23rd, 24th in San Diego. If not, you can do virtual, not a problem. If not, then I have another course in July, I think the 23rd and 24th as well. That's our Strength and Conditioning Summit for sports PTs. So I'm excited to have that. More details soon. But yeah, I hope this content helps you. Just stay focused, don't get complacent, keep working, stay humble, and stay consistent. Just like Michael Jordan, just like LeBron James, just like Tom Brady, all the people who've been very successful, they just kept doing it, and they never lost sight of that. That's the hardest thing. Fun fact: in pro sports, the one who wins is like the one who, like, when they're all one percenters, meaning they're all the top 1% of their professional career. The ones who win are the ones who, like, they just like stay in the game, right? The Dan Marinos, like the Tom Brady's, they can last, and they're just consistent. They are very consistent, and that's what makes them good. And so that's what makes a really good PT. It's the same concept. This is the exact same concept. So I hope that helps wherever you are in career. And I will catch you guys on the next episode. I am coming off this great vacation and this very big high, and I'm excited to share it with the world. So wherever you are, I hope you're doing well. You're staying healthy, active, and healthy, and living life and enjoying your career. That's ultimately a huge vision, is to make sure that people love what we do, because it's very, very special. So, all right, guys, I will see you guys on the next episode. Take care. Bye now.